day, learners, and welcome to the second session, which discusses management practices before tenure. In the last session, we did an overview of management, in which we defined management, discussed the key issues for managerial successes, defined the approaches to the study of management, defined management as science and arts, as well as the qualities expected of managers. We also discussed, among other things, the levels of management and the skills that are essential for that. Now, in this session 2, at the end of this session, you should be able to discuss the management principles and practices as contained in the Bible, as well as those management principles and practices enunciated by Machiavelli, and the management principles and practices ingrained in the game of football, as well as discuss some of our traditional management practices. Now, we usually start the study of management by reviewing management thoughts and practices in the developed world. We talk about Tayo, Taylor, we talk about Fayol, we talk about bureaucracy, we talk about all those things. But before these practices of overseas, there are management thoughts and practices that were in existence. The Egyptians introduced centralized and perspective management. The Romans were practicing job description and centralization. The Greeks had job rotation and division of labor. The Hebrews had management by exception, as introduced by Jethro, who was a consultant to his in-law. Jesus Christ taught about servant leadership, and we have several indigenous management practices. This is important because before Taylor as a second decade of the last century, Taylor was still around about 100 years ago. But the Bible was written 2,000, 3,000 years ago. So all these, both Egyptians and Romans, their practices were there before even these developed management thoughts that were developed overseas, before they came in. So we start by discussing the biblical foundations of management. We're going to give examples of some of these principles in management that we have and the way they are in the Bible. Moses was the leader of the Jews, and when his father-in-law came, he found that the young man was wearing himself down. And he said, no, you can't do this. Please, delegate this job to some people, give them the authority to discuss the thing, create them into units. That was how he introduced both delegation and empowerment and management by exception and structuring, the management structure. In the current New Testament, talked about system theory. We said that all of us are of one body, and that everything that happens in any part of the body affects the other parts. That's the management system theory. Of late, we talk about vision, we talk about mission, but they're already in the Bible. Just like Moses, his major mission was to take the Israelites to the promised land, while Jesus Christ had the mission of ensuring that we are reconciled to God. And all his focus, both of them, they focus on this. Planning. The Bible says that anybody who wants to build a house should first of all sit down and estimate what it will take in and be sure that he's able to do that. It talks about structure, the issue of the tribes, the issue of dividing people into groups for work, the issue of Jesus sending his apostles away in 20s and in 10s. There's goal orientation. Paul says that he runs so as to get the prize, not just to run and waste his time. That shows that goal orientation is a critical factor. There was enough leadership in that term. Jesus Christ was practiced what is called a 3S model of leadership. The leader as a servant, as a shepherd, and as a steward, long before the concept of servant leadership came in. Change management, the movement of Moses, the Israelites from Egypt to the promised land, was a study and is a study in change and transition. We also talk about strategy. Everything is strategically done, and there are instances in the Bible where strategy is about. Now, there's servant leadership. We've talked about it before. There's also coaching and management by wandering about. Jesus Christ was a first-class coach, and they practiced management by wandering about. The same thing as Paul. So, what am I saying? I'm saying that all these concepts, practices, theories that are in the most current management texts were in existence long before that time. And we started from where it is in the Bible. Now, Machiavelli wrote a book called The Prince. The Prince, it was an advice which he was giving to a prince who wants to come in, capture and retain power. But the whole book of Machiavelli is all about management. And if you look at the book throughout, you find that, number one, he was a treatise on change management. He said that there's nothing so difficult as introducing a new order of things. Change management is very difficult. It talks about strategy. It talks about benchmarking, how to compare what you are doing with those who have done there before you. It talks about motivation, how to make sure that your followers, the workers, are encouraged to move on. It talks about various types of leadership. He even talks about auxiliary politics, how to manipulate the system so as to achieve your goals and to continue to be there. He talks about staff loyalty. And that means that if you want the staff to be loyal to you, these are the kind of things you do. You take care of the interests and be open to them and whatever. So even though Machiavelli, his book, The Prince, was a book on political economy, on political science, on the use and acquisition of power, going through it shows that for all a good length of time, he also spoke about management practices and theories. Now, today, football is the opium of the people. It's our opium. We get carried away by football. Everything is about football. But football teaches us a great deal about management. For instance, it talks about goals. At the end of the day, what matters in football is not whether you did very well. It's the number of goals that you scored. Organizations undertake retreat, even government agencies. But it was football that started that retreat. When they give you half time, that means when you play for 30 minutes or for 45 minutes, you go and rest, think about what you have done, and change your pattern depending on what you want. Good ball is all about coaching. Of course, the person managing the football team is called a coach. One of the greatest things that football teaches us is about teamwork and team building. It's a team of 11, which must collaborate so that they achieve the goals, working as a team. If anybody does not play his part as part of the team will lose. Because the loss of the team is the loss of the individuals. It also talks about empowerment. Empowerment as the process of making sure that people have the right and the knowledge to do what they need to do at the time they need to do it. When the players enter the field, the coach doesn't go into the field with them. Therefore, he makes sure that the players know what they should do and how they do it, so that when they are on the field, they are able to execute their goal. That's empowerment. Common purpose. No organization can survive without a common purpose. And so is football. The players have a common purpose. They have one goal which they are pursuing. They require complementary skills. Some people are attacking, some people are in the midfield, some people are scoring, some people are goalkeeper. All the skills come together so as to achieve the goals of the organization. And football is planning and strategy. It deals a lot with it. You either play 9-9-1 or 4-1-1 or 4-1-9 or whatever. But there are strategies which they play. Some people play short passes, some people play long passes. Some people, you have to plan your game. And the planning depends on the kind of opponents you are going to have, the kind of people you have, the time you have for the training, and the strategies is what you think you need to do so as to defeat the opponents in the field. But before all these things, we also have our own systems of leadership, team building, conflict resolution, production, and all the above. If you go around the country, among the Yorubas, among the Igbos, among the Efiks, among the Calabaris, they all have their own system in all those things. And if you look back at your own place, you find out that you have your own management process and system in your place. In terms of our types of leadership, we have it broadly divided into two. Number one is the decentralized consensus-based systems like the Sukuma of Tanzania, Nur of South Sudan, Ndi Igbo in Nigeria, the Telenesi of Ghana. These are decentralized and consensus-based systems. Decentralized. You now have the centralized and chieftaincy-based systems. The Hausa Fulanis and the Emirs, the Benis and the Obas, Yorubas and also the Obas, Bales and all that. So if you try to look at it, there are examples or whatever. And for the case of this study, we study the process, consensus building process called Ohazurume in Igbo land. It's a process of ensuring that at any point in time, the decision of the house is what everybody has agreed. And that's what is called Ohazurume. Ohazurume means that this is a collective decision. A matter is brought for discussion. The person who brought the matter is allowed to lay his case. After that, he is interrogated. And after that, everybody brings his own view on it until the leadership will know where the people stand. If it's a case of land, for instance, and on that day the person who is the culprit in the matter is not around, it cannot be discussed in his presence, because this process believes that it cannot shape somebody in his absence. So he has about 11 or 12 steps, from bringing the case, from taking everybody's opinion, from making sure that everybody speaks, not allow one person to dominate, and at a certain stage you now find out that what is the people's opinion has been achieved. And once it is agreed, once that decision has been taken, even those who did not agree are bound by it, because Ohazurume means a collective decision. So before the white men came, we had our own methods, and anywhere you go, you have these indigenous management practices. So you have practices in the Bible, you have practices as indicated by Machiavelli in The Prince. The Prince was written in 15-something or 600 years ago. You have the game of football. Game of football started hundreds of years ago, and it was there before these management theories and practices came up. You also have indigenous management practices, which are based on whether it is decentralized and consensus based, or whether it is centralized and chieftaincy based system, as we practice in Yoruba land, in Hausa land, the Benin Kingdom, among other things. And for that, we use the example of Ohazurume, which is a consensus based system through which the people get consensus and agree on what they want, by allowing everybody to air his views and making sure that those who have dissenting voices are heard. By the end of the day, whatever is the general choice is taken. Ohazurume is a variant of what we call Ohacracy, which is democracy. The people are the ones responsible for it all. We should thank you for listening as we prepare and get ready for the third session.